We're about to.
We should be live now. Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the wrap-up conference with my wonderful friends, Dr. Akeem and Dr. Reverend Bree. It's so exciting to have you guys on with us. We tried this in March, and then Rona came. Rona made some everything. I think Rona put everybody to a screeching halt. And so from that moment, we just like, but I couldn't let the year end without ending with who I started with. I needed to finish it up. And my heart was about to break when Reverend Bree, your sister, said she's not taking any more appointments. I said, please, will you beg for me? Will you just please beg? Please, please, please.
I know I was supposed to be on hiatus for the rest of the year.
I know. Well, tonight's mine. After tonight, I'm on a hiatus. Much of mine is doctor orders.
Okay.
I'm a 3-time stroke survivor, and
wait, like 3 different times in life, or 3 back to back?
3 different ones.
Wow.
I had 2 within the same year, and then I had my third one in 2017. And so I shouldn't be walking, talking, doing none of this. I'm partially blind in my left eye. So my body tells me when it's time to stop. So
yeah.
After this right here, I was supposed to go to London and Paris for Christmas, but nobody can fly out. So me and my crew got to stay home, and like, what am I gonna do? I just gotta do something. Yeah. So I'm just glad to be alive. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad. Listen, I'm glad you're here. And
I'm like, man, we should just like cue the shout.
I'm telling you, and listen, the strange part about the strange part about it, I never knew I had it. I didn't know I had the first stroke. I went blind. I completely lost my vision. And by me losing my vision, the doctor started saying, we don't understand why you're responding. Because I was talking, I was up. And by the time Friday came, I couldn't see. So I told my sister, I said, I think I need to go to the urgent care. Now, listen to me, urgent care. I don't want to go to the hospital. And from that point on, the doctor said, well, I can't let you leave. I got to call ambulance. And he said, how do you feel? I said, I feel fine. And so when I got to the hospital, they started doing the whole thing. And trying to figure all of it out, I had another one like within a month later. And so my body, I went through a whole metamorphosis of stuff. And so I've changed my whole lifestyle, eating habits. I really wasn't a bad eater then, but I've changed a lot of stuff that I do.
And you're real slim.
Yeah, she looked like a fitness guru. I'm like, I'm jealous.
Now, I used to in college. I'm dating myself. I'm 47, y'all. So in college,
really?
I am 47. Yes.
47, 3 strokes, and baby, you look good. You hear me?
That's
good.
It. Thank you. And so I go every 3 months and I have a carotid. They call carotid migraines that develop from the stroke. So I get the Botox shots in my head, and people's like, Erica, doesn't it hurt? When you're in pain, you don't feel those needles.
Yeah, I suffer with chronic pain. I used to get procedures every week. So.
Yeah, so I said,
when pain comes, you throw all that stuff out the door and just do whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. But do you ever want to be like, hit right here just a little bit?
Yeah, well, she told me that. I mean, she hit me here. She hit me on the side. So yeah, I go back.
I can get my crow's feet done. I get migraines too.
You might can get it done. I can. You can join us too if you want.
Right in here.
Yeah, right on the side.
Wow.
They say when you hit the 30s, you should start getting Botox.
Well, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that. Well, I'm way past. I'm going on the downward end. But I used to work out. I was an avid track runner. I ran through high school, partially through college, and I worked out, and then I got lazy, didn't do it again. So I changed my eating pattern per my doctor. Okay. And so I don't eat as much meat. I'm not gonna say I'm vegan, but I'm almost on that. And so my body feels a whole lot better. I can tell the main difference in that lifestyle change. So I know that it was something I needed to do.
Yeah.
But I want to say for y'all, those of us that are already joining, come on in. Let me put my comments up. Come on in and join us on tonight. We're gonna have some fun. This is gonna be exciting. I know that everybody has been in a this Corona. I'm just gonna tell y'all one thing about it. I want to go on, and then the Orange Man in the White House. I need for him to go on.
Listen, we need him to just pack up and leave. Don't even wait to the 20th.
We need for him just to go away because he is just. I mean, I just never seen anything like it.
Right. I hope I never see anything like it again.
I know, honey. I need for him to go on. And my thing is, what you fighting, honey? You lost. Just go on and leave.
Well, you know, for a scammer, they never feel like they lose. And he's a scammer.
Oh, that's true.
Ultimate scammer.
And I'm in the mental health field, and he has classic narcissistic personality disorder. He has it.
Really like diagnosed him. She also said, you know, he can't hold it down. I said, well, man, get it together.
Get it together, because we need to move on and make this thing work.
Right.
But I'm so excited to have you two join me tonight.
Thanks for having us.
I just want to tell everybody out there, I get so excited by the nuggets and information that you all give. I don't get to watch you all the time, but when I'm able to tune in,
nobody needs to watch the same person all the time. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's good. I tell people, this has been refreshing to me. So I can watch like 15 churches on Sunday. So you can go back and look at all your pastors.
Right.
So you can go back and get all these messages and just, pick from this. So it's really been good. And then the other thing, when COVID first hit, I'm the executive pastor at our church. She got COVID and had it for 60 days. And so she got it at the very beginning of when COVID first hit. So I preached the first 6 months of COVID. I was doing everything. And I'm telling you, it took a toll on her. She's bounced back, but now she's developed some other health issues that they say after you've gotten over it, where it's starting to affect organs and things like that. So she's been through a battle, but God has brought her back slowly. She's getting stronger. So I had to jump in like immediately when the virus hit, because it hit her. And so I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go. And I'm telling you, when you had them group therapy with Dr. Tasha, that was a lifesaver for me. That was a space.
You saved your life.
I saved my life. It was a space.
Do you mind me asking, what's your pastor's name?
Bettina Moffitt.
I want to keep her in prayer. That's
okay.
Absolutely.
Bettina Moffitt. Yes. Yeah. So she has been one. But I'm telling you, when you start those group therapies on that Monday night with Dr. Tasha, that was like life. Because we were trying to adjust to this whole. Now I'm not in church. How do I preach? How do I make my, you had to sit down and preach, and you used to stand up and preach. It's like your whole concept had to change about how you do sermon delivery. And then it also had to change how you did sermon preparation.
Yeah. Because
the whole context had changed. And it still amazes me that people still want to preach as if we're in pre-COVID. And I'm trying to tell people we done lost almost 300,000 people. We've seen George Floyd, we've seen Breonna Taylor, we've seen so much transpire since then. Your messages or your deliveries cannot and should not be the same. And so that has been so when I tell you I had to jump in feet first, it was one of those things that I had to kind of just say, God, lead me in different directions, show me what to do. I've been preaching for 25 years. December the 9th will be 25 years. And so she and I preached our initial message the same night. And so that's how long we've been together as in the ministry together. So we share a special bond. We started out together in ministry 25 years ago. And I always tell the story. At year 18, that was the year I wanted to quit ministry. That was my year I was going to walk away. I had done it. I was like, God, this ain't working. And I need to really do something different. And I said, God, if you don't come in and intervene and show me something different, I was going to pack up my bags and just move out of the state and do something different. And God came in and he began to show me some things and strategically show me what direction to move in. And I really have a heart for leaders. I really have a heart to see leaders grow. I am launching in January the Legacy Leadership Institute Leadership Center, where I'm going to begin to train and develop leaders. I have someone applying for me for a Lilly Foundation grant that's writing one of them for me. I want to see leaders grow. I know everybody has their own area. I told Brianna the other day, she's the hidden figure guru of numbers.
God knows she is.
Yeah, I'm telling you. When she said numbers work, I said, yeah, numbers work. Yeah, they really do. I mean, I got an opportunity to listen to some of those Thursdays. But it's amazing that when I did my dissertation, move discipleship. What is it called? On my bookshelf somewhere. Oh, here.
I understand.
Yeah, I did my lay leadership, moving from discipleship to mentorship. And so I used the Barna Group for a lot of data. And that was in 2011.
Okay.
I'm about to go back and give me some more true data to update that. I'm actually developing curriculum for that.
I mean, if you ever need to commission a poll or research, let us know.
Listen, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to reach out to you because I'm going to need some data. I'm going to need to put something in here that's relevant to ministry. But, one of the things that I really want to, I guess, sort of look at tonight, where do we see the church heading in this next season? Is virtual going to be the way for a minute? Are we coming back into our buildings? I know people saying they're remodeling their buildings, they're doing all this stuff. I'm thinking, okay, well, that's great, but are you going back in your building anytime soon? We haven't went back into our building, and we're a small church, but our finances have tripled. I mean, like we have seen an outpouring of finances. And then we're thinking, like, if we would have been in church, I don't think it would have been this way, but we have seen God explode in our finances at our church during this pandemic. So for us, it has been financially good. But where do we see church go? Yeah.
It's been financially good for a number of churches. Actually, it's been a lot of larger and medium churches, I think. And then smaller churches that know how to be fluid and adjust with the times. And a lot of smaller churches, a lot of smaller churches kind of didn't want to adjust. See, when larger churches don't want to move and adjust, they still have a base that can still financially support them, who are just like stuck on that building or stuck on that name. That doesn't happen with smaller churches. So if smaller churches don't adjust, they actually struggle a lot more. But many churches have seen, especially medium and large size, we've seen as far as the data says that, financially they're doing better. Their income is higher, and their expenses are lower. Sometimes the income is not higher, right? But the expenses are lower, so it still balances out. But what we need to be aware of is that this won't last forever. We don't really know what economic response to the pandemic, what the economic response to the pandemic will be until the pandemic is over. When people attempt to have an ordinary life, when certain companies who are right now being held up with the PPP loan, and if they go back into like normal society and attempt to function the same, they may realize that people just don't have an affinity toward their product or their service anymore, or people have learned to do it another way. And when that happens, then companies will then have to lay people off. Like AMC is actually saying they know they won't survive after the pandemic.
Yeah.
The AMC is one of those. Maybe it's Harkins. Someone is saying it's one of the movie theaters. But what we know is the same will happen for many churches. People are going to go like, oh my gosh, I have to go to church. But guess what? They'll go to a letter licking party if they have to, just to be around people. People just want to be around people. And then, it'll feel normal again. And they'll be like, I actually did like virtual church. And that will happen because then they can go everywhere they want to go. And so there are some things they'll want to make easy again. And I think this will be one of those things for many people, unless you have some amazing service happening. And I mean, you can call us for some amazing service. And we have to remember that people have to be careful about people's mental state. So people are not going to come to you the way they left. And I'm sure Dr. Akeem can talk to that. People will spiritually and mentally be fatigued. And I mean, fatigued is the easiest probably part of that. We were seeing people kind of not handle the pandemic well mentally. And so I think what we need to be ready to do is maybe less physical social service and maybe think of mental health as a social service that you owe the community. Dr. Akeem, I'm sure you have.
I think what y'all said is important. To answer your question, I think I don't want to get into the whole should you go back into your building, should you not? Because I think whether you're a small, medium, or large church, part of the problem that we saw in this pandemic is pastors were comfortable, right? It forced all of us all of us on this live tonight are seminary trained. We would have never thought that your preaching or ministry would have been diminished to a camera or an iPad and an office, right?
Yeah.
But
diminished to just what you say.
Right, to just what you say. So you have no more crowd feedback. You couldn't take an early exit, right? You had to have content. You couldn't get the fillers, right? To your point about going back into a building, we also have to remember that while most churches, the offerings were good, only 20 to 35% of the congregation carries the entire membership, right?
Yeah.
To Dr. Bree's point,
and 10% of those are tithers. The other people are just givers,
right? And so what does it look like post-pandemic when I can go back and engage into my local church?
Yeah.
Because right now you cannot in full integrity tell what your membership is.
Right.
Like there was a funeral that happened here in Virginia a couple of weeks ago, and this pastor arrogantly stood up and said, I left my 1,000-member church to come to this funeral. He said this to his church that he left, which is a smaller church. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't even know if you have 1,000 members right now. Like who said that, right? The truth of the matter is,
at a funeral.
Well, he was throwing off on the church that he left, which was much smaller. And I was like, first, I can go live on Sunday and say, oh man, I got 500 people watching, but I know if you come to the church I pastor, we have 100 active members.
Yeah.
So I can't claim to have 5. It's just, so I think we have to understand that regardless of whether your church is small, medium, or large, do you want to take the risk of infecting people? Because all it takes is one person. We talk about large crowds. All it takes is one person to infect people, and then nobody's coming back to your church.
That's right.
And here's the other question, right? If we're saying that the offering is good, that the participation on lives are good, then why are we really rushing to go back into a building?
Because we need somebody to be like, you better preach. You
now let me put myself on the couch today. Let me put myself on the couch. We have been outside for the past 7 months. It has been the best preaching experience. I never would have thought that people honking horns would replace amens, right?
Pause. I have a question. When they be honking, like, how they hear you and honk at the same time?
It don't matter. The honking is something to preach.
See, but that's the thing. Other people don't have that kind of feedback and experience.
That's right.
It's difficult, like you are, like, God bless y'all, because every time I have to record a sermon, I go to the church, maybe 2 other people there. And one person is both of them are on the camera, but the one I can see does this when it's good to her, but she won't make a connection. So it doesn't. So the sound doesn't interrupt. And so you really have to feel confident in whatever God is giving you.
Right.
Yeah.
That has to be enough. Don't get me wrong. It is. See, I have to admit that I learned to preach to me and God, right? But what I have not gotten over is like spending time and hugging and loving the people after. Now, ain't no replacement for that, or to pray with people who were impacted. Or feel like, man, God has answered me in your sermon, and you get to stop and minister them or spend time with them. That's irreplaceable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and don't forget, and Dr. Kim can talk to this. There are a lot of people who are not feeling valued because the Black church has long been the place where people can go, where you know their name, where you respect them, where there's some type of title, even if it's brother or sister, where they're valued, where their voice matters, where they've been to school, where they have a high paying job. And so that kind of value is missing. And then proximity has changed because I can no longer be the pastor's whatever and sit on the second row. I can't of water. I can't go and take no peppermints. And so this whole thing about valuing people is now gone. And we have to find new ways to value people because that impacts people's mental health as well. Dr. King?
Absolutely. It is amazing that if we be honest, the Black church, we thrived on people doing stuff, right?
Yes.
So as much as I've enjoyed being outside and I have gained traction with people who, if I've been at my church 8 years now, I hate that term, my church, the church I pastor 8 years. And I've seen people come to the parking lot who have never been in the building. But here's the reverse. I've seen people who are active at the church not come because they quote unquote don't have a place. If you were the usher, you have no way to usher people into their seats, right? I changed the brand of water. I won't mention their name because they're not giving Dr. Erica, Dr. Bree, or me a check. So I won't give them a shout out. But I changed the brand of water that I drink. And I noticed that even to Dr. Bree's point, the lady who would bring me the water on Sunday was kind of, it was interesting because that was the thing she did. She made sure that every Sunday, Pastor had a room temperature bottle of water. And so even that shifted, right? And I think we have to address the mental health, that we cannot assume that everybody thrives in trauma the same way.
That's right. That's right.
And so this is my issue now with those who preach just solely a prosperity gospel. A prosperity gospel is tied to a struggle. We don't have no end date for this.
No.
wait.
And
No. What happened to the preachers who say, tell you struggle? There you gotta go.
Right.
This is the last year in my life that you gotta liberation, and you can't stay around here in it. That ain't gonna work. I thought
no, because Corona is like, okay, I'll leave today, but when you get home, I'll be waiting for you at home. Yeah, like, and I think we have to sit and wrestle with what does it mean to be church and do church, right? Even like you said, for those of us who stand and declare, how are we empowering those who, one of our servant leaders, our deacons, said, Pastor, for the first time in, I think he had been a member of the church for 40 years. So it was twofold. He said, I respect now the role of the pastor, but I also feel like I don't have a place. Because what are we meeting about? We're not meeting about anything because and I'm not trying to be funny.
It's true.
I appreciate ladies, but nobody's checking for the usher right now. Nobody's checking for the people where are the pastors, right?
Well, let me make this clear. Come to the virtual church programming webinar because I have a place for ushers too.
Yes.
I just signed up today for that. So I just signed in and I won't be a part of this. I just signed up. But let me speak something to what you all saying about the mental health. I think pre-COVID, and I told somebody that we don't want to diminish diabetes, cancer, things of that nature. But because we have seen the virus so much in our faces, that's what we're seeing every single day. And the impact that it has had on our churches, our community has been tremendous. And I think one of the things, a friend of ours were talking, I said this before, that maybe before you go back into your setting, or maybe while your church is at this period, maybe a church needs to have a group therapy. You get on and have a group therapy session, because you have people in your church that not only suffer loss from jobs, from homes, family members. So there's a whole different phase of loss that we have to learn to identify and put it in its right category. And then how do you minister to that person? And especially if you have a person that's lost 10 members to COVID in their family. And I know someone that has lost 10 members in their family to COVID. What do I say to that person? Because I've not lost anyone to COVID.
Right.
So how can I minister to them? What do I say?
Or to Dr. E, how do you minister as the pastor when you have suffered from COVID, when you've had family? Like you said, group therapy is so important, and we cannot just brush through it that COVID is over. Let's just Like, I know everybody, posted those memes when church is over, we're going to be shouting and rolling up the phone. No, you still going to be scared.
Yeah.
Because I've not
No. Don't forget. These people ain't scared now. They in these restaurants, in these clubs. They out here acting
wearing no mask. Yeah, they ain't scared.
I mean, so I don't know, but people get scared when it's time to do right. All of a sudden,
right.
In place.
And I think Chris Christie was one that showed us that. He said he don't listen to the president. Wear your mask. Be safe. Wash your hands. And the thing that I've come to understand is that I just released an article, and you go to my page, and I put in the article in the magazine was the fatigue of the pandemic, and I talked about the fatigue that the pandemic has had on me personally, the mental exhaustion. As I was telling Akeem, I am in the mental health field, so we are considered essential workers.
Mm-hmm.
So up from March up until the weekend of my birthday, I had not been on any vacation. I haven't went anywhere, hadn't taken a day off. And I told the staff, if I don't get a day off, I'm gonna need a record number like the rest of these people in this building, because I'm gonna do something to somebody or something gonna happen to me. I said, I got to get away. And so we had to be there every day because our population does not quite understand this pandemic that we're in. They're mentally challenged adults, but that function on a child level. So anything that broke their schedule or their consistency caused them to spiral out.
I'm sure.
So like the first 2 months of the virus, we had over $5,000 worth of damage in our building. Fighting, the clients having meltdowns because they could not go to the park. They couldn't play basketball. They couldn't go to the YMCA. They couldn't see their friends from other programs. So imagine those of us that are not clinically diagnosed, some of us have something that we can get out, and we are choosing to not to get out. Imagine someone who's been diagnosed, and now you're telling them they can't go anywhere because of a virus.
Right.
And it's the same way in a church. The church was forced to be virtual, not by choice, but because the orange man refused to take the advice from the health team that there was no pandemic, there was nothing out here. He decided that he was just going to dismiss that. We could have curbed some of this, but now that we've seen the numbers skyrocket, now that we've seen that, I think about church re-entry just as if you would someone coming out of prison. They have to prepare them to come out. So we got to prepare people to go in. If you've been in prison for 10 years, a lot has changed in 10 years. So when you come out and you're saying, well, what is this? You have to be reacclimated to your environment and to your climate. So it's the same thing for us. We've got to talk post-COVID, pre-COVID, and post-COVID. There has to be a correlation between the two. My question is, how do we do that effectively with our churches in this virtual space?
So you said, how do we prepare for reentry?
For reentry and while doing it still in this virtual space.
I think it speaks to what the Black church has lacked for years is policies, procedures, and systems. We do not have it in place. We don't want to. I have this theory that we believe that the pastor should be the answer to all things. That is not my theology. I think the pastor and the church should point people to the answer, right? So we're not the answer, Jesus is, right? And I think this is the time to have a support system, whether or not they're on your staff. There's so many Zooms and conferences going on that we as pastors have to sit and say, hey, what does it look like for us not to go back into the building? I asked the church that I served the other Sunday, how many of you all have Facebook? I think it was like 20% of them.
Wow.
One, in the county where my church is, Bertie County, 60% in 2020, 60% of the residents don't have internet access.
Oh, wow.
whether because of accessibility or affordability. So
So
when I
Dr. King,
yes,
if it's affordability, and I don't know if you know the percentage enough to know if it's worth it, does that become a social service that you attempt to offer people? Because it's not just that they can't get online for church. You know what I mean? Like there are a number of updates they may not get, and there may be things they don't have access to because you have to apply, only online.
Right. So to your point, when the pandemic first happened, the superintendent were advocating for churches to become hotspots for people to drive into. They wanted us to basically open up our Wi-Fi so that people could come into the parking lot just to access it. Well, you got to deal with parents going to work, they can't get it. It's a rural community, and so it's not the affordability part. Is if Verizon says I can come out and put files out there or whatever, the people can't. The breakdown for the residents to be able to pay it becomes challenging, right? So it's an all around. So to Dr. Bree's point, social services look different for reentry. I think we have to sit with that. We may not go back into for a while. Anybody that's talking about going back in, like if most of us at the end of the year, whatever. Well, now numbers are rising, particularly in Virginia. The governor has just taken us back basically to phase 1. So I don't know what reentry looks like, but I think the church has to be honest about our intent as to why we're going back in, because we might be here for a while.
Yeah. I think that's I think there's something that we have to consider. We have to consider more than just ourselves. I think sometimes we can get selfish because that's what we want. But you have to take in consideration what is the best interest of the greater good of those in whom we serve. The church I currently serve as executive pastor, I wrote policies and procedures, job descriptions, tasks for each person on what they should be doing. Either it's a ministry or auxiliary. We took the time to do that. At my previous church, I was at a mega church, so that was my job. I ran what you would say. We had like a continuing education department. So I had a lot of experience in writing policies and procedures and job descriptions. So I was able to bring that knowledge to the current church that I am in. And I do agree with you. One of my mentors in Atlanta, he said to me, I can't think of it, Dr. Durley. Dr. Durley said to me, he said that we should operate our church as if it is a business. And I think this is where the Black church misses it. We think because we have good church that everything else is just to fall in place. But at the end of the day, when you collect the money, you got people, somebody following your parking lot, they can sue you. The liability of them re-entering your church and catching COVID, churches not realize they can be sued for this. That's why we got to put waivers and liabilities in place.
So let me I didn't know that, Dr. Bree, until we were updating our insurance, and we had to ask the question about if we were currently having services. Now, it will be a civil suit, but the problem is, let's say Dr. Erica goes to a birthday party on Friday and she gets infected. She's not going to say, and then she comes to church on Sunday and she doesn't start coughing the Sunday. She's not going to say, I got it at my girlfriend's house.
Right.
I went to a sorority party, right?
Yeah.
She's going to say, I went to church on Sunday and I got sick at First Baptist.
Yeah.
And it becomes, even if she doesn't win the lawsuit, the publicity.
Yeah.
You don't know if you survived that PR.
Because now I got to stand up and say, Dr. E or one of our members, because you can't, because of HIPAA, one of our members have been affected by COVID, and so now everybody is scared, and she didn't even get it. You know what I'm saying? I think we just have to reevaluate this. And to your point about policies and procedures, even when we were talking about the PPP, Dr. Bree was talking about it earlier, I know several pastors who couldn't get it because the church did not have the proper paperwork in place. And I think that if we believe that the wealth of the wicked is laid up, right? However you feel about it, they missed out on it because of the fact that they didn't have their paperwork in place.
Wow.
And so I think we have to consider all these things. Can you afford? Because watch this, it's not just about cleaning the restrooms. It's supposed to be after every person.
After every, is right. That's right.
So you have to have somebody monitoring when someone comes out the bathroom. You can't say we're gonna clean the bathroom in the service. It has to be after every person.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about temperature checks. Okay, that's fine. But what about the people who are asymptomatic, right?
Yeah.
Not just asymptomatic. You can have symptoms and no fever.
That's right.
So I just think
it's a lot. It's a lot to consider. I mean, it is a lot to consider when we're looking at, because we take temperatures every day at the office. We record them. We do all that. If you got 99.9, I turn you around and say you got to go home. Then call your people because you at this level. Because we cannot. You can't take any person's symptoms lightly now. If they say they got a sore throat, you know, I've had this tickle or this cough, the first thing you think in your mind, maybe not cold, but you may want to ask this person, you need to go take a COVID test. So the first COVID test I had was back in September. I had surgery. And y'all know what? I thought I could swear they went into my eyeball. They went so far up in my nose till the tears started coming in my eyes. And I said, do you have to go this far in my nose? And so I'm thinking like, wow. So, but the second one I had, y'all, this was interesting. They asked us to blow our nose. We took a Q-tip and we did it ourselves. And the first thing that ran in my mind, I said, this cannot be accurate. If they're making everybody do this, can you imagine? I said, it has to go back to what you said, Brianna, numbers. The numbers are off. They will be skewed. And you allow me to swab my own nose with a Q-tip.
Because think about it. You're not going to make yourself uncomfortable. As soon as you get uncomfortable, you're not going to go up no more. No. I had to have a medical procedure, and when I got to the surgery center for them to do my test, I said, you have to go up my nose. And they were like, nope, open your mouth. I opened my mouth, they swabbed my mouth, and they said, I need you to go straight home. And I don't want you to come back out until it's time for you to come back to the surgery center. And it was a surgery center, so I'm assuming that they're much more accurate than somebody you pay at, some random store. And I was like, can I come back and get another one if I need it? No, thank you. We just do it for surgery. They're like, oh, because I'm sure that would be the hot ticket test to take. Because and I was like, well, I was on my way to go eat. I didn't know I had to quarantine right away. She's like, I need you to go home.
Yeah.
And I was like,
okay. Yeah. It was uncomfortable, but I had to have a procedure. So anytime prior to procedure, you got to have it done. And so looking at the questions that I sent you on, this question was posed to me: how effective can you disciple or extend the invitation to people to join your church now that we're virtual? That has been a question that's been posed to me. How do I disciple from a virtual space?
I'm going to let Pastor King do that, only because I think the invitation is probably the one thing that doesn't have to change much, because nobody it ain't like you hooping that, you know what I'm saying? And like you need to feel your help coming on. Like that's usually like the conversational type.
But then I've seen them like they're like, we put a link up every Sunday for if it's your first time visitor.
Follow through.
Follow through. We put a link up. And but the question that a couple of pastors, but Erica, I can't see them. I said it might not be. You may be a moment where you can't see them. Maybe you all need to set up a Zoom to anybody that has been a first time visitor or salvation that y'all can make face to face. I said you've got to be creative with what you have.
So I think to answer your question, have we complicated what Jesus tried to simplify?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think this is the best time to do discipleship, right?
Yeah.
Because it's something as simple as, I know some churches are scared because early on people were hacking into Zooms, and so they were. But it's simple as, if you're on Facebook Live or YouTube or whatever your platform is, hey, if you want to partner with our church, there is going to be a Zoom ID that's going to pop it in the screen. We invite you to meet us right after we log off, right? And so as soon as service is over, you then boom, jump on the Zoom and greet them. It is almost like you would do at the end of, going back to when we were in the building, you would stand at the end of the pulpit or at the door and greet people, or it's the same way we can do that. Discipleship, you have Zoom, you can create a private Facebook group, and it's about the curriculum. I think what this has for us, I was speaking to a pastor, their new discipleship or their new member training was 8 weeks long prior to COVID. Nobody is doing that now, right?
No.
So
were people going in? Were people actually completing that program live?
They were, but they were doing it. They had it was up and down because it was on Sunday mornings in between. So now you had to streamline. What's most important, right? And I asked the pastor, tell me what are the 3 most important things you would want somebody to know about the church if they join. So hit those 3 things, and because being a Christian or a church member is a lifelong journey. They can get the other stuff on the back end. Let's hit it. Have a Zoom no longer than an hour, interact with people, and you can still do the same thing on virtual. So I think it's easy to do discipleship. Find the curriculum that speaks to your church. This is the time now for, if you have a Christian education director, for them to, there's so many, what our wonderful brothers and sisters are good at is creating material. Now we got to throw some hot sauce on it, a little grease to make it fit for us, right?
Make your own.
Or we have Dr. Bree and the Black London Cafe that specializes in that, right?
That's right. That's right.
I think we have to go back to the basics. What does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean to be a part of our church? And let's get the other stuff on the back end. Yeah.
And I do agree. I think we have overcomplicated it because we are not in our spaces that we're familiar with. Now we're outside that space. We're over analyzing the concept of the Great Commission. And it was never confined to a space,
right?
And so we look at scripture; it was never defined to a building. And so I often tell people, you got to think outside of the walls, and you got to think of it from a standpoint: what would you want? How would you want someone to draw you in or to greet you? And I think that is the other caveat to virtual experience. You have the ability to be creative, in my opinion, more now than when you were in a church building, because you have more things that you can manipulate when it comes to visuals, when it comes to interaction. I think you have more creativity in this platform.
So I'll give you, or for those who are watching, at the church, one of the churches I serve, we use the intercessory prayer ministry or the associate ministers to do the same thing they would do when we were in the building. So when it comes time for us to pray on Sundays or Wednesday nights, we ask people, if you have a prayer request, and if you feel comfortable enough putting it in the comment section, do that. If not, put it in the inbox, and we have people who are dedicated to watch the comments, to write down your name and your thing, and they reach back out to you. So we're still touching you, right? We're still connecting with you, praying with you and for you. It's just not physical, right? And because we can't leave those people just because they joined the church. What do we do with them after they're here?
Yeah,
got you. I believe that one of my passions, or one of my proclivities that I'm dealing with, is that I don't want anybody to be lost in how we're moving and how things are changing with the church. And I do agree with you. I never looked at it from your standpoint, Akeem, that you're in a rural area and that many people don't have access to Wi-Fi, and then people don't have Facebook. So, you might have to revert back to a conference call line or something to agree. So how are you going to reach them? How are you going to make them effective in that concept? I've never thought about the fact that people don't have access. So when I live in a city, and they have more access to Wi-Fi than in a rural area. That's something to consider. Even looking at how you're going to plan your church and looking how you're going to church planning. And I know I signed up for Reverend Bree's virtual planning for the church on December the 8th. I've already signed and paid my money. I did it today, y'all. That's it. So you have to. I heard one pastor say today. He said, I'm not even going to plan for 2021 because there's nothing really to plan. And I said, huh? He said, we're going to be in the same space when the year comes. I said, and you are, but are you going to keep doing the same thing you did in 2020? I said, I hope not. I hope you come with a different spin or a different mindset as we move into 2021, because at that moment, we've already going to change presidents. Our economics is going to look different. Your church space will look different. There's a lot of things you have to consider. So you have a lot of leaders out here that's saying, I'm not even going to plan for 2021 because we're gonna still be doing the same thing when the year comes in.
I'm gonna yield to Dr. Bree. So let me be antagonist. I understand on the surface what that means, right? So we're trusting God, but you cannot have no plan, right? I get what you're saying, that we don't know how this thing's gonna turn out, but we have to still plan.
Yes.
For something. Because we've been meeting again outside, I've even had to shift. So now when I approach church on Sunday, not only do I have to have my sermon ready, I have to have my Bible study ready. Because what I do is I give the handouts. I'm going to give the handouts to the people for Tuesday night because we do conference call.
Okay.
So it's double work for me, but it's a different day. So if that means you have to put the a Jot form or Google Doc link on your Facebook or on your website or in your app, the notes, so that people can, we just have to do things different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a choice. I'm like kind of blown away.
I've heard a lot of that. Yeah.
What I expected people to do was put the same stuff back on the calendar for 2021 that they had on 2020. Try to make a virtual version of, which is a really bad idea. Like here's the thing. The world is attempting to adjust by any means necessary to what we need. Everyone is making adjustments. I mean, people are making movies and getting tests every single day so they can make series and shows. People are finding ways to give us programming while social distancing. I mean, if you've looked at the local news lately, I think the local news is horrible these days. They're getting any kind of interview they can. They be like, we heard that there's a young man in our town named Dr. Kim in a new field. Let's see what Dr. Kim. I mean, it's like everybody for content and programming, trying to give people something that will keep them interested. And if you can't do that, people just don't have to come. And even if they watch today, there's no reason for them to come back. So you're doing work not just for today, but for what it means. You know what I mean? For when we're in a hybrid model. I think that at best we'll be in hybrid models. And so I think it's odd that people are really questioning whether they are going to plan or not, when my clientele went through the roof because people are like, we can't program for virtual spaces. Can you do our programming for us?
Yeah.
I have more programming clients than ever before because people are like, I know I can't do this.
Yeah.
The Bible says that the sons, I'm going to add the sons and daughters of Issachar saw the time and knew what to do.
Yeah.
The church, this speaks to what people have been saying about the church for years. We are always the last to get on things. We're always the last to adjust. And then we get upset when things are left behind. It is reckless of us, right? Where are all the prophets? Where are all these people who can see through brick walls, but yet we don't have any kind of plan or process in place?
Don't talk about Paul. Please don't bring Paul.
I'm sorry.
He said prophets.
I think
he didn't say liars. And
the prophets are here, but we're not having any kind of direction. And I think it is okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, but it's not okay to not have any kind. This is the time where people honestly borrow from somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's so much going like connect. Let's collaborate. It's just amazing that people are actually out. And I'll say this, for all of the pastors that are watching, I found it interesting, and I've shared this with some people that I'm in close relationship with. This is not the time that just because you've had the same preaching voices come to your church for 10 and 15 years because they were your friends, everybody cannot speak to these times.
That's right. That's right.
We really have to be prayerful about who we invite and who we put up, because this is not the time for cute sermons. People need messages. They need words.
Yes,
and I've seen it, like, you invited this person because they were already on the calendar, and they're not saying nothing.
That they've been telling us 15 years. That's the people love them. No, nobody love them but you.
Yeah, exactly.
That person keep coming back every year. You. Yeah.
And I want to be transparent for a moment. Y'all, well, you might believe it. So back in May, it was May. It was Kervance Ross and Dion Clark. We did a webinar. We did 2. And the number of comments that people sent me in my DMs, they said to me, how were you able to get him to come on a webinar with you? And I said, huh? Like, I mean, I was kind of dumbfounded. It's like, well, you know what church he goes to? I said, yeah. And you know who his pastor is? I said, yeah, I'm not inviting the pastor. I'm inviting him to be a part of this platform. Even me inviting you two to come, I've got people inboxing me, how were you able to get Reverend Bree to be a part of a webinar? And I'm sitting thinking to myself, you're just asking an invitation. They either can come or they can't. So it goes to your space of saying, getting connected to people. Since this year has happened, God's allowed me to get connected with people. Even Thurston from the other night, they're asking, like, how were you able to? It's simple. They either gonna tell you yes or no. And so I'm thinking to myself, wow, people really don't know how to develop new fellowships and new relationships. And then when they see you doing that, the first thing they ask is, how were you able to do that? How were you able to make that connection? I'm just thinking, like, it's, to me, in my mind, send a letter to the administrator, and they either can say yes or no. If they can't do it, they can't. You just keep moving, you know.
This is the best time to get anybody. I'm not saying that everybody's their calendars. I'm just saying, you don't have to pay for no plane ticket. You don't have to host them. You don't have to get in a hotel. But, you know, the ask is there. But most of the time, people don't want to ask.
They don't.
I'm an introvert. If you don't ask me, I'm not going to volunteer. I make the assumption that, you know what I mean? I'm not what you want, that you don't want to hear from me, that you don't even believe in my word. Like, and I'm just an introvert. I'm not Miss, like, in your face. Hi, I'm Bree. Like, it's just not who I am. So I think another thing is people assume that you see them working and you avail yourself, like, hey, I'll do your life. No, that's not how they go. It takes an invitation, because I think it is arrogant to assume that somebody waiting for you to show up and tell them you'll do whatever, you know, you'll do their conference, you'll do their live. And I think it's about the ask. And I also think there's a way to ask. I mean, I've had people say, you know what, I'm gonna let you do my conference. Let me.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Crickets. Yeah,
but that's people's way of not asking. So that, you know what I mean? If it goes, you know.
Yeah, if it goes wrong.
They don't have to be like, well, I asked you. I mean, my niece is classic. My niece does this all the time. She hints about what she wants so you can invite her to have it. So that if something happens, you say, well, I didn't ask for it. You know, you offer it. This is what you do. That's childish. Don't be a child.
Yeah, don't be a child. And I'm telling you, it has been amazing that I have the inboxes I get, the messages I'm getting. I'm sitting thinking to myself, where's your mind? And then the number 2, I have to remember, I said, I'm 47. I don't have time to play games. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to block you or delete you. Because where you going, I'm like, we're not going in the same direction because you asking crazy questions, you know. Just ask. You know, I was taught just ask. So they either can say yes or say no, and we're going to keep moving on. And so I think that, as I keep saying, this is the time you can ask or invite anybody right now, because like you said, nobody's flying on a plane, nobody's going anywhere. I will say this, though. I invited a young lady to do a webinar with me. and she was all hype, and we were all ready to go.
I feel like this is about to be a funny story, and I shouldn't laugh. Like, okay.
And I said to her, "What's your honorarium?" Y'all, when she sent me that piece of paper that had all these breakdowns, if she had to go on this platform, this platform, this platform, it was different price. If she had to go on this website or this, she broke it all the way down. When we got through with the whole thing, for her just to do a Facebook Live with me was $4,000 for 1 hour.
She had relevant data.
I don't know.
Was she gonna bring you 1 million followers?
I don't think she was, but I'm saying to myself, now don't get me wrong, she is prominent and she does a lot of things, but it was based on which social media platform she was on was her price.
Well, I will say this. I do have different price ranges, but mine is based on whether I'm sharing unpublished data.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that.
Something that is like hot, but not completely developed by anybody. Like people have asked me to do stuff that I haven't even done a webinar on yet. So of course the price is different, especially when you're going to have from other organizations there. Because if you have 50 organizations represented and I do this one live, you know, that kind of kills, you know, my opportunities in that space. And so I can totally understand in that way, but I ain't never heard this platform situation. But I'm assuming she had exclusive data or unpublished data or some kind of insight into something that nobody else could have. It had to be exclusive.
It had to be something, because when I got it and I said, I thank you and I appreciate it. Maybe in the future, we might can do something. But and I said to myself, thinking myself,
$4,000 for a live.
People have to know when to be gracious.
Yes.
People have to know that we're all in a different space. And I'm not saying people should do stuff for free. I don't people's price. But I think people also have to understand that unless people are really checking for you, like I don't care if they are $4,000 based on the platform. It's just a little.
Or live.
I know people that won't charge that when we were doing it like that, right? Like, I mean,
y'all see how I'm sitting? This is how I was looking at the computer when I was reading it. I said, "What?" I was just confused. Like, really, what happened? Like, I mean, I ain't asking. She had to get on a plane, y'all. She had to come to Greensboro. All we were doing was a webinar. And that was it. I was like, wow. I said, okay, well then, Lord, she was not for me. I'm gonna keep on moving. And but what's funny though, about 2 months after that, her sister reached out to me and said, do you want to reconsider getting another time, another date? I said, no, I think I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna keep moving, you know. Thank you so much though for reaching back out to me. But I'm gonna keep. I'm a type A personality. I'm straight up. She had one moment with me. That moment was gone. I wasn't gonna try it again the second time. So yeah, they try to come back around, and I was like, no, because I'm gonna tell you why. It was because she saw some webinars I had done with other people that she knows. That I guess she figured, well, let me do some information, let me check around, and then as a result of this, she reached back out to me. So I laughed, you know, I kind of laughed at that because,
that's creepy.
You know, yeah, very, 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 very.
Yeah.
So as we kind of pull this thing to a close, I want you to give me at least 3 things you would give a pastor or leader as they are ending their year. What should they start in with? And Reverend Bree, I'm gonna ask you to give me 3 things they should start with.
Start the year with.
So you want me to do what they should end with?
Yes. How should our leaders end with this year? We're approaching the end of the year, and guess what? Watch night service. I always come to the church. Now watch night service is gonna be virtual. So you got to think about how all this is going to look. What would you? Because you have some pastors and leaders who've already given out of gas, like their tank is empty. They don't have nothing else left to give. They just try to make it to December. What would you say for them so they can finish strong like they came in January?
The first thing I would say is, this is the self-care in me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself space for grace.
Mm.
You have to be gracious that whatever aspirations we had in January shifted in June, probably did not happen, right?
Yeah.
So, man or woman of God, give yourself space for grace. Like, the fact that most of us just survived this, right, is a check, is a win in the win column, right? It is a check in the win column. You survived your sanity.
Yes.
Most of us didn't have any conferences, any outlets, whether you're married or even if you're single, you couldn't fellowship with your friends. We had no didn't have no Hampton, we didn't have no conference,
no Hampton. Yeah,
nothing.
We have nothing.
You had nothing, no outlet, and so you just had to do.
Yeah.
But I want to give them space to just say, I survived.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, I think we have to do a self-inventory. What did I find out about myself that I didn't know, that I didn't like, that I did know, that I enhanced, as the Bible says, that God stir up some new gifts, right? And then thirdly, what do I need to end this year? This is the easiest time and the best time to walk away from anything. You can blame it on Corona. I mean, you can blame it on, this is not working. I don't want to. I think this is the time. So 3 things. I think you should find a space to somewhere. If it's just driving to the water, don't drive in the water, but driving to the water. if it is finding a new hobby. I think the other thing is, what I've enjoyed is taking time to be ministered to. So this is what I would say. Whether you are a pastor or preacher, find a line, whether it's a friend or somebody you don't know, and just sit. Let God pour into you. Right? Don't critique the sermon. If you get ideas from it, but I'm not watching as a critic. I'm watching as a member, someone who needs to be poured into. And I think just enjoy the journey that, hey, 2020 took all of us through twists and turns.
Yes.
I want people to know that it's okay to, one, as a shepherd, just be a sheep for a moment.
That's good. That's good.
I'll yield to Dr. Bree on how to.
Dr. Bree.
How to start. 3 ways to start. Start refreshed. So I'm gonna take that leap from Dr. Akeem. Start refreshed. Don't be tired and way too full to even think and create and innovate. Don't be there. Start refreshed. Start really strong. So when I say start really strong, don't let the first Sunday be like the last Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Make sure you give them something that sets the expectation that this is going to be a year worth hanging on. And then the third thing would be start with the people in mind. Don't start thinking about your church. Don't start thinking about your budget. Don't start thinking about your flyers, your graphics, your themes, and your colleagues. Because many times we create for our colleagues, we don't do it for the people.
Wow.
We want our colleagues to be impressed, and nobody's even thinking like them. So that doesn't do it for people. So begin with the people in mind. What do they need from me? Where are they? What do they need to hear? And you don't have to take a shot in the dark. You can poll your own people and see what they're struggling with, where they are, what they like, what they don't like, what they want to see more of. That's okay too.
Wow, that's great. That's great. It's amazing. And one of the things that I believe is that God, in his infinite wisdom, knew that this was going to happen. What we have to do as leaders is really press in hard in our prayer time and allow the Holy Spirit to lead and guide you into what direction I need to go in and start planning. So for those pastors that are listening tonight, Reverend Bree didn't ask me to do an infomercial. I'm doing this because I signed up tonight for her virtual planning session this December the 8th. I want you to go to her Instagram page, go on her bio link, and register your leaders for this. It's going to be informational. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. She ain't shared none of the information with me, so I don't have nothing. I'm gonna be showing up with y'all all on December the 8th. But I believe God has graced her for this. And when God gives you a grace for something, hook up with those people that God's already graced them to do that. Don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
I think sometimes we try to do this thing outside of here. No, link up with somebody that's already done it. So I believe that God has given her as a very innovative and energetic millennial some insights that people like me that's older, I wouldn't think that way. And so it's helped me to be, and I can tell you, that's the one reason why I started following her. She made me start thinking differently, because when you're older, you've been in ministry a little longer, you do get settled. You do get comfortable in the one little area that you like. And so it stretched me to look at things very differently. I bought her book. Was it Google? Give me the name of it. Yeah, and Akeem, I bought your book 2 years ago. You probably don't remember.
Wow, can I get a refill?
Yes,
Man,
I
we
did.
all need a refill right now.
Yes. And so last year I released my first book, An Open Letter to the Black Church.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that. I need to check that out.
Yeah. An open letter to the Black Church. You get from me or on Amazon, either one. I'm doing a sequel to it, which should come out in January.
Okay.
But I talk about mental health in that, self-care in that particular book. And I talk about, the book does not give a solution. It is just creating dialogue. And I think that's something that going forward, we as the Black community and the church, we must continue to have conversation after conversation about what affects us, what impacts us. But most of all, we've got to take retrospection on what can we do together. I have seen our Black churches in my area, instead of them coming together, they've kind of grown apart from each other. Our NAACP in our local area is horrible. I almost to a point I'm thinking he's been the president for so long, he's not doing anything effective. And I just said, listen. So every year they've been trying to get me to join. So this year, I joined. We have elections on next week. Running for officers. I'm not actually running for office. I'm going to participate. I want to be in a subcommittee because I've seen that some of the economic injustice and the criminal injustices here in my own city have not been responded to, at least by the Black church. We do a lot of stuff in Greensboro, but the Black church is not stepping up to the plate. And so I feel a push to really be relevant and push forward. We have a pulpit forum, but most of those people on the pulpit forum are older individuals who are not going to get involved in present day situations because they done been through that.
Right.
So I'm asking myself the question: is this the time for me to pull together other preachers outside of that realm and create a whole nother forum, a whole nother system? Because they're not going to change. I've been to meetings with them; they're not changing. They're not thinking about changing. So now you can't work with a system that's not willing to change. So then I have to create a system that will change.
This is the time for collaboration. Will Smith pulled together the two Aunt Vivs for the family, Fresh Prince reunion. We got Gucci Man and Jeezy versus Battle Tonight.
But I already heard that the first song was a diss record.
Hey, but I'm saying this is the year for connections and collaboration.
Yeah.
It's the time for.
It's a time for it. Listen, y'all, I have enjoyed my time and space with you all. I am gracious that you all came upon and to join me tonight. I speak blessings of your life. I pray that God would enrich you, that he would prosper you in every area of your life. I pray that the doors open wide for you all. I pray that everything you've been praying for, God's going to do it just for you in this next season.
Thank you. I receive it. Let me just say thank you for the work that you're doing. We oftentimes don't shout out the number twos or the support systems. And as a person who sits as a senior pastor and as a support team, let me just say thank you for the work. Sometimes if people are not in senior leadership or senior pastor, they don't get the credit or recognition. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I'm grateful for letting me be here as Dr. Breed's assistant tonight. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much, seriously, for the invitation and for the work that you do, and you're out here grinding. trying to make your own path, and that should always be acknowledged and appreciated. And so the same blessings that you spoke over us and you believe God for, we believe God for you too, and that God will, bless everything that you touch.
All right. Well, listen, y'all have a happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much next week.
Oh, I will.
If you're gonna be with your families, wash your hands, wear a mask, do all that.
I mean, it's not even real. If you're gonna be with your family, you can't wear a mask and stuff your face. So
well, you can put it to the side and stuff anyway. Just open that and put it
do whatever you gotta do.
Yeah, do whatever you gotta do. I love you guys. I appreciate this time that we've had time to spend together. And I pray that you all that God's gonna do great things. I see it, I speak it, I believe it for you. So y'all have a good evening.
Good night.
All right.